So we can start if you want.
Sure, definitely.
Okay. First of all, during your third year at Lenovo, if I'm not wrong, and you got into the company at a very special time in 2020 when the pandemic was over us and the restrictions were enforced. So I would like you to recount a little bit about the experience of getting into a new company in such a special time, both from a professional point of view and from a personal point of view. How was the experience? How did you went through it, and what do you remember from it? What you learned from it?
It is true that it was a very special time. I think, first of all, as an executive who comes into a company, the real opportunity is to learn about the business, to learn about the colleagues that you'll be working with, and to generally, when you begin a role, to spend time with those colleagues. And this was not possible in person because of the pandemic. The gift was the ability to use technology to come together. Here is a great example. You are with me in my home in San Francisco. I am with you in Spain, all because of what technology allows us to do. And so I think that the ability to be on screen, to be human, to spend time with my colleagues, learning about their challenges, understanding what the role was really going to be about, meant that I spent a lot of time in this room doing a lot of listening and understanding where the organizational priorities are, how to interact. The trickiest part, I think, is that what you cannot necessarily see is the dynamics between people when everyone is a chiclet on a screen, right? So you can't necessarily see who is listening, who is looking at their phone, who is, right? So the dynamics are a little bit difficult to understand. And when you're in a brand new culture, in a brand new company, some of it has to do with the softer side of leadership. Again, the ability to get to know people, spend time with them. One thing that I did do is I did almost every single meeting on camera so that I could connect with people in the very best way that I could. They could try to get to know me. Sometimes my dog would walk in, sometimes one of my children would walk in. And I think that technology has allowed for empathy in those situations where we have a lot of empathy for one another. I think it brings us together in terms of the opportunities. So I would say that was a lot of the onboarding process, was using our own technology to get to know and connect. But it was very strange. In 35 years, I've never onboarded in that kind of way. Definitely a different way to do it.
It had its positive side, or from what you remember now, it was good in any way?
It was wonderful in the way that I was able to really connect with people deeply and be very present. Sometimes if you're on the go and meeting people and running, you're not as present and able to really participate as you would like to. So there was a huge benefit to being very focused. Also, because I think we were home, I was able to dedicate a lot of time to getting to know people, which I may not have been able to do in any other way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Well, your position is Chief Marketing Officer and VP Intelligent Devices Group and International Markets at Lenovo. Maybe you could explain a little bit what's your remit, what's your job within the company, and what are you trying to bring to it?
Yes, great question. As the Chief Marketing Officer for IDG, I will just start by saying that is the business unit inside of Lenovo that is focused on bringing to life all of our different devices. And so you might know some of our portfolio through ThinkPad, through Yoga. We have a large gaming footprint. And so there is an organization dedicated really to the device side of our company, along with the services and solutions that would go with those particular devices. So I was asked to come in and really help to move the needle from a marketing perspective on those particular area to focus on more of the premium side of our portfolio. So remit number one is really to transform the marketing narrative around the premium nature of our products and to be really clear about the value proposition of the products that we have. You can imagine in the pandemic, people would work from home, they would play from home, and they would learn from home. And so there was a great opportunity for us to tell a story about how our devices and services and solutions can connect you to all of the things that it is that you need to do. On the international sales organization, I am a firm believer that sales and marketing need to be anchored very strongly together. And so we were able to create a situation where, in addition to working through the business unit, I'm also able to enable marketing from a sales perspective. So how do we enable our salespeople to tell compelling stories, to tell customer stories, to enable our channel organizations with the right level of marketing products and assets? And as you know, those are quite different when you're speaking to the B2B frame versus the B2C frame, meaning business to business versus business to consumer. And so refining our marketing, targeting our marketing, using a tremendous number of insights, getting our organization in terms of my remit and my vision to really focus on areas around insights, areas around our media strategy and how we communicate with our customers. And then I would say the third piece encompassed in the remit then is really how we think about digital transformation and measurement. And those are very important remits for any CMO today. Mm-hmm. How are you thinking about your tools in the context of your remit? So we can talk more about that, but those were the three areas that I really wanted to focus on outside of just the parameters of this extraordinary heritage that we have in compute, in phones. We also have the Motorola brand in our remit. And so I think that then extending to the sales organization and to the message that we want to bring to our customers is really the vision that I have for how we make sure our message lands and that we transform that message in the minds of our customers.
Mm-hmm. How is the Lenovo brand received at the moment? What's the image, the brand image at the moment? And what would you like to achieve with it? What would you like to improve in some way in the minds of consumers?
Yes, I like a lot of marketing focused entities. We spend a lot of time measuring our brand, as you can imagine, right? So we have a lot of instrumentation around brand trackers. And I think our brand in general is in a good place. The real opportunity for us is to take, again, that heritage that we have in terms of these premium products, from ThinkPad to Yoga to Legion, all of these extraordinary products that have a lot of heritage, and really take them and port them into what we see as our future, which is a future that is more kind of more anchored to services and solutions and to becoming a true services and solutions provider. So what do you wrap around those devices for customers to be able to advance their agendas, be it digital transformation, be it the way they're thinking about cloud, be it the way that they're thinking about AI, be it the way that they're thinking about large language models. And so the real opportunity for us is to take the brand that has the permission and the heritage in one area and really transform that into how we can help our customers bring their aspirations for digital transformation to life, and how we can help them in the context of infrastructure, cloud, services, solutions. That is the real opportunity. I also think, like most marketers, I hold the brand so carefully and dearly as that flame that is the piece that speaks to all of our wonderful constituents. And as you know, over time, brands have become more porous. They, you know, in when I started my career, you could put out a campaign and you could say different things about your brand. Today, everybody sees your brand. They comment on social media. They participate in your brand, which is a wonderful asset. But at the same time, you have to really be present for your customers and understand what it is that they need. So that's another dimension, I think, of understanding the first part of your question. How do you think your brand is perceived? Listening all the time, social listening tools to make sure that you know where things sit. So all in all, it's a great question and a complicated one. It's a big one.
Thank you very much for your answer. Another one, I don't know if it is complicated or not, but I would like you to explain what's the core purpose of Lenovo as a company, and how is marketing area of the enterprise contributing to it?
Absolutely. Our real purpose, and it's very clearly stated in our aspirations, is to bring smarter technology to life for all. So when we think about that, our core purpose is to develop and produce technology that makes things better for humanity, right? That is really what we are here to do. Everything that we do, every innovation that we think about, the passion of this organization is all about smarter technology for all. There is a real democratization of technology. We believe it should be in the hands of everyone. We believe in the ability for people to use technology to make their own lives better and to make society and humanity better. And so that anchoring purpose is a real guiding light for our organization. And I feel very fortunate to be able to use that as a baseline for the marketing stories that we tell around our brand.
Mm-hmm. Okay. More general question now. What do you like most about marketing? What do you like marketing? Why do you work in marketing? And also, if there are certain things about marketing itself that you don't like, certain mantras or truths that are taken for granted that you do not think are so real. First of all, the positive side. What do you like about it? And after that, certain things that you not like so much about it, or about the way people go on working on it.
So I think that the first thing I would say is what drew me to marketing is the incredible opportunity to understand more about humanity. I grew up as a third culture child living in many, many different countries around the world. And so my own background meant that in order to, as a child, make friends in Greece, France, Norway, Spain, Scotland, I had to understand the culture. I had to understand the language these children were speaking. I had to understand what they thought was interesting, what they didn't. And so I grew up very much a student of humanity. I love that about marketing. And that leads to the more, let's say, the more technical elements of marketing around insights, listening, finding the nugget that tells that incredible story that connects humans to your brand and to your purpose. What I would say is that has a lot to do with the art. Now, the other side is it's very subjective. Do you like pink? Do you like blue? It can be very, very subjective. So the piece that and that can be hard, right? I wouldn't say I don't like it because I see a challenge as a good thing and usually as an opportunity, but it can be very tricky. So what I love about where marketing has been and where it's continuing to go is really around the fusion of art and science. How do you use data to help you to tell the story in an accurate way? And here's a great example. We recently produced a campaign to launch a series of new products, and I had some questions about the creative. Anytime the creative makes me uncomfortable, it's a good sign because it means it's pushing me and it's making me, think, should we or should we not? And we really had questions around whether it would work. And we take all of our creative and we test it quantitatively around the world with the target audience. And they loved it. They loved it. So what that told me was my own subjectivity may not have had the same result on the marketing as the actual testing, which I think is a real gift. We like to think that we understand all the edges, but at the end of the day, I am not the target audience. I'm not. I would love to be a Gen Z. I am not a Gen Z. So that is how I think when there are difficult parts of marketing, you use things like data and science to be able to tell the story. I think it's also equally important for marketers to be thinking about that in the context of return on investment. Here at Lenovo, like everywhere, our dollars are very precious. So I'm accountable for helping the corporation to understand what have we done with those dollars and how are they adding to the value or accreting to the value of our brand, of our objectives, of our sales. And so using data and science to help tell those stories takes away from, well, marketing makes really beautiful videos. They tell wonderful stories. Again, it's that fusion of art and science that I think is so helpful.
Mm-hmm. And what do your instinct, your guts, what role they play in your decisions?
I think instinct is tremendously important. I have learned the hard way that when I don't pay attention to my gut, I am more likely to make a mistake. And mistakes can be helpful. Mistakes can help you to really learn. And I think it's great to make a mistake quickly and recover. Don't make the same mistake twice, I would say, is the key there. But I think you have to be very intuitive and paying attention. Again, it's about reading the landscape. It goes back to the onboarding conversation we had. How do you read the room when you're not in the room? The technology has been a real gift, but I think that's part of it, is listening to your intuition and making sure that you can back that up with the data and the science. In the example I gave you, I was uncomfortable with that piece of creative. And at the end of the day, it saw the light of day and went forward because the intuition maybe was to check, and that was the right thing to do.
Okay. Along your career, you have worked in different types of companies, amongst them advertising agencies. What are your memories from the time, and what did you learn there that is being useful to you in your marketing career on the other side?
I had the great fortune to work for somebody who told me about 7 or 8 years into my career that I needed to understand very clearly how agencies run, how they work, what it's like if I truly wanted to spend my life in marketing. It was a great piece of advice. I set about to try to find an opportunity in an agency, and it was extremely eye-opening. It was very helpful to be on the inside of an organization that you think of as the agency can help you to solve the problems that you're trying to solve, but ultimately the best relationships between agencies and clients come from the harmony that is a great partnership. And that has stayed with me forever. I was on the account side in the agency. I learned a tremendous amount about research, data, insights, the actual creative process. How is it that you work with a creative team and curate that process ultimately? And it's a personal note, I married a creative director. I was the account girl who married the creative director. Having that fundamental respect for that process, understanding how to service clients, how to deliver a compelling strategy changed my career forever. Because on the client side now, and I've spent, I wouldn't say it's half and half, but more than 10, 12, 15 years on one side and the balance of my career on the other means that I truly, truly value the agencies that we work with. It matters to me how they feel. It matters to me how they perform. I know what it takes to get them to perform at their best because I've been in their shoes. And so I think that that's an incredibly important dimension to being a well-rounded marketing executive. It isn't necessary, but I think it's incredibly helpful to have been able to do both.
Mhm. Your career has also a Spanish note, if you could call it that way, as you work in the Spain 92 Foundation and in Iberia airline too. How it came about?
It came about at a really important time for the country of Spain. You will remember that the European Economic Community was founded in 1992. Spain was a cornerstone country in that treaty based on, as you probably well know, the Treaty of Rome from 1946, blah, 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 or 56. So this wonderful passion around Spain emerged. And I had grown up in Spain as a child. And so I had a lot of love, a lot of familiarity, a very, very positive set of memories. So Spain became the destination for the Barcelona Olympics, the Seville Expo. Madrid was the capital city of culture for the European Economic Community. And of course, there was a celebration of the quincentenary. And I was able to get a job in this organization that was nonprofit, that was designed to celebrate this journey. And that led me into a very unique set of marketing challenges where we were a very tiny organization sponsored by the country of Spain, but also by elements of the US. And how would we tell this incredible story and make it meaningful all of these years later, which then translated into ultimately a relationship with Iberia, who were one of our sponsors. And I was able to get a job driving marketing and communications for Iberia. And our job was to drive that all the airplanes going into Spain were full, right? You had to drive demand for the destination. And we did some super interesting things. We negotiated the fifth freedom of the air. I could talk to you a lot about airlines, but it was a fascinating time, both for the country of Spain and the aviation industry in general. And it gave me a really good sense in my career of what it is like to work for a company that is not headquartered where you live. And that has come about a couple of times. In my career, I worked on a client that was also based in Asia. I think it's really helped me in the role that I'm in today, understanding how you are able to achieve a brand vision across different cultures, especially when you think about a company like Lenovo, where we are so incredibly global and very local in our approach. And so I think the foundation of understanding what that was like early in my career back in 92. I mean, I started there before then, kind of more 89, 90, which is a very long time ago. But it helps to have a foundation of how to work across cultures, languages, objectives that exist. So that has certainly served me well. And I will always have a very warm place in my heart for all of Spain. So I've tried to work on my Spanish and keep it up as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Emily. Let's back to Lenovo for a moment. You have mentioned its global, local approach, and part of it maybe it's sponsoring activities which are centered in the most important events like the MotoGP Championship. You're sponsoring the Ducati team, and also you're sponsor of the Inter de Milano football team in Italy. Why these activities are important for the company? What do they bring, and when are they centered in the Italian market?
Yes, absolutely. I think at its foundation, a sponsorship strategy is an important consideration for many, many brands, and certainly for ours. I think that we have thought very carefully about our approach into motorsports and how that allows us to really reach new audiences, improve our brand positioning. Let's take the F1, for example, and thinking about the criteria that we used to make the decision to work with the teams at F1. It is the single most technical sport on the planet, right? From the technology of the car, the technology of the fuel, the technology that really allows the drivers to perform at their very best. We felt that that opportunity, together with our brand, our ability to help to drive their technology, is a fantastic story. Again, gives us access to new audiences. F1, for example, has 500,000 fans around the world that we may or may not have had a relationship with. And so by virtue of that sponsorship, you're able to extend your footprint, and the equity in those sponsorships goes both ways. And so I think that is something where we have had a heritage with Ducati that we then have been able to expand upon. I think is something that has really been developed as our strategy. And we have a 4-pillar approach, everything from sort of the criteria all the way through to what does the technology footprint and roadmap look like, all the way through to, very importantly, how do we measure those sponsorships? Going back to one of your very first questions, what is the impact of that sponsorship to our brand? What is the impact of that sponsorship to our customers? How do we measure that from a brand perspective? How do we measure things like the activation with customers and what happens to those customers once they've had one of those experiences with us? So we look at every element of that. Clearly, you have a hospitality piece, you have a public relations piece, you have a marketing piece. So very soon we will be part of the Barcelona races, which I believe are in early June. And you would see out of home, digital advertising, conversations, potentially even TV advertising to help to tell that story for Lenovo in Spain, and then carry that all the way through to the PR and the communications, to the event strategy that you have for hospitality, all the way through to the other side where then you measure the impact of that. And we're in our second year, so we have a good baseline from last year. But I think that overall, that opportunity to sponsor and connect the real purpose of your brand, and that brand is the magic. And that is what we, I think, have certainly found in the context of our relationship with F1 and certainly Ducati as well. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and why Italy is a circumstance, or is just a decision taken for some specific reason?
I think it's more of a circumstance. We do have a large footprint in Milan as a corporation, so that maybe is part of it, but I don't think that's as much. F1, as you know, is in the UK, so it isn't necessarily geographically related. It's much more about the strategy between, I would say, those particular organizations we're sponsoring and ourselves, and making sure that the synergy is there, again, which is really where that magic happens. You've seen sponsorships where it's not a great fit, right? So I think that that's really what we look for and press for.
Okay. You have a few minutes left?
I think I have a fairly hard stop. I'm sure I can take 5 more minutes. Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Shall we make this one more question, Manuel?
Sure.
Is that all right? Thank you.
Well, okay, one more. I'm going to pose you the question we make to all our interviewees, and is that you make a recommendation to readers and viewers. Make a recommendation of something to read, something to look at, something to listen, not necessarily about work, or preferably even not about work, something that you have liked recently that you would like to recommend and to share with our readers.
Well, that is a wonderful opportunity. So thank you for letting me squeeze that one in. I will share that a book that I read recently, I really, really enjoyed, and it is called Take Back Your Power, 10 New Rules for Women at Work. And I am very interested in diversity, equity, and inclusion, making sure that people are represented equally, and helping, in particular, women advance their careers. This particular book was written by Deb Liu. I was very fortunate to be on a panel with her, very interested in her personal story and the way in which she crafted the book, which is written in chapters. It's very beautifully done. And each of the chapters has a lesson that relates to one of the new sort of rules, which I think is very helpful. And so I would highly encourage reading that and really thinking about how you take your power back. And it's fascinating. It goes all the way back to sort of how elements of society have been created. So that's when I would do. What I also thought I would share is that a person on my team just sent me a book, and I haven't read it yet. I opened it over the weekend, and it is called The Light We All Carry by Michelle Obama. So I will come back to you and let you know how I liked that one. But it's very nice. We've started this sort of culture of, I read a great book. What do you think? Should we discuss it? And having sessions in our organization really talking about that. So it was a very welcome and appreciated gift that you pass along some of your own thoughts and opportunities.
Okay, Emily, thanks a lot. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for your time. The pleasure has been all mine. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the thoughtful questions.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad that you have liked them. And as I said, a pleasure to have you here. Next time, I hope you come back to your Spanish roots, and we meet here in Spain. You can practice your Spain.
En absoluto. Listo. Lo haremos.
Muy bien. Eso
Muchísimas
espero.
Gracias por todo, ¿eh? Muchísimas
Un placer,
gracias.
Emily. Gracias de verdad. Adiós.
De verdad.
Hasta luego.
Adiós, gracias por todo.
Adiós.